Hey guys, and welcome back to the February 18th edition of the Zac Tapes. Today, I'm going to be talking about, surprise, the two movies I saw last week. Thank you, AMC. Shouts out AMC. I'm going to be talking Companion and The Substance, not in that order. Let's get right into it. I wrote a full script for The Substance, so that's what we're going to be doing right now is being all fancy and reading my script. Last week, I did see The Companion and The Substance on the same day. Honestly, worst decision I've ever made. I will never be seeing like two scary movies in the same day ever again because, like, I couldn't recover from one and then like think about the other. Like, I wrote this whole Substance script and then had to go watch Companion again because I literally forgot. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Um, but I did end up seeing both these movies blind. I especially saw The Substance blind, which was like kind of impressive, seeing as it came out like 5 months ago, won a Golden Globe, won all these film festivals, but nonetheless went in blind, and oh my god, would have would have loved to know that this was a body horror movie. Like, not only just like creepy horror, cool horror, but like specifically body horror. Like, maybe I messed up. Like, yeah, but the pretty much the whole theater was like the entire time, which real fun. So let me just get out these. We got three characters that are like the main people. So we got Demi Moore, who was playing Elizabeth Sparkle. She was the one who won the Golden Globe for Best Actress. Margaret Qualley is playing Sue, and then Dennis Quaid is playing Harvey, who is like the head of the studio. So the movie starts out with a shot of the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and it says Elizabeth Sparkle, and we learn that she's like this acclaimed actress who's now being a TV dance instructor. Think like Olivia Newton-John's Physical music video. Very that. The first thing we learn about Elizabeth Sparkle is that her new, like her show, which is like the quintessential 80s mom dance show, is in dire need of a new lead because the Dennis Quaid's character Harvey is like she's ugly, she's old, she's not good. Like, we need someone new because people are losing interest. There's a comment when I was looking through the Substance subreddit that said all the body horror in this movie and the grossest thing was Dennis Quaid eating shrimp, which is it's actually so true. But when the shrimp scene is where he fires Elizabeth from her show, like being like you young people are just better, and like you when you turn 50 you lose it, and she's like, lose what? And he's like, you just lose it, and she's left sitting there like, huh? But yeah, the shrimp scene is like he's firing her and eating, like ripping heads off shrimp the whole time, and it's like, oh, and it's like show like in his mouth pretty much at one point. But the cinematography in this movie slaps. It eats. Also the sound design, because it felt like super gross when he was eating the shrimp. Um, after after she leaves getting fired, she gets into a car accident. So like she's like reeling and like trying to figure out what's happening, and so like she's distracted and someone like T-bones her. Um anyways, after the after like she gets checked out at the hospital, there's this young nurse who's like, I need to do one more exam. And he like starts looking at her back, and he's like, you'd be a perfect candidate. And Elizabeth's like, a candidate, what? And once and then it's like it cuts to her outside the hospital, like after her being discharged, and she notices this thing in her pocket, and it's this USB stick that says The Substance on it, wrapped in a note that says it changed my life. So it's a little USB stick like wrapped in paper, and on the paper it says this changed my life. And the part that like broke it for me was like, supposedly this movie is in the 80s, but they had like USB sticks, like, and also, not only did that not make sense, she plugs the USB stick into her TV. number one, look it up. The USB stick did not come out till 1996. So I don't know if like they're just like not like interested in like disclosing what time frame this was, or like does she have a laptop? Like I don't know. um anyways, she plugs it in, she starts watching it, and it's, have you ever dreamed of a younger, more beautiful, better version of yourself? One injection and your DNA starts a cellular division that will release another version of yourself. And she's like, what the fuck? And then she throws the USB stick out and is like, that was weird. And then she goes out drinking. Like she throws it out and then it cuts immediately to her having like 4 martinis. And she like gets back to her house after going out to the bar and immediately is like throwing up and like obviously kind of pitiful. And then after she's like done like throwing up, she immediately gets the little USB stick out of the thing and is like, "Hi, can I get it? Can I get the substance? I would like to order." Um, and then the guy on the other end is like, "Address," and then she tells him his address, and then he gives her an address. And the next morning, after this night of drinking and like maybe making the worst decision of her life, she gets a little card. She gets a envelope in the mail with a card that says number 503 on it. And then she goes to the little address that she wrote down. Then he was like, "Write this down." Like she goes to the address, gets her kit, and like she immediately starts the process when she gets home. It has this little fluid called the substance in it. There's 2 food packs and then the syringe for the stabilizer slash life fluid. This whole sequence like made me rethink my whole entire shit. Like as a filmmaker, as a content creator, as a creative, like truly gagged. This is where I was like, this deserves every fucking award there ever was. So basically, she rips down her back, like where the nurse from before was like, you'd be a perfect candidate. Like nape to like hip, basically. And like straight down in like a line. Um, and then it opens and you see another spine. And you're like, whoa. I don't know. It's super like freaky and cool. Then it cuts to these flashing lights and like this sequence of like of the change where I only realized it by watching it again to for like the rewatch that it was like showing DNA, I think. Like I don't know if that's actually what it was, but I can look at the screenplay if I wanted, but I don't. But it looks like the stuff you learned in school where it's the DNA and you can like, do you know what I mean? So like adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine, like all those things. That's what it looks like we're looking at, and I thought that was so cool on my second watch. Then after it shows us all that, like all the flashing lights and the switch, it cuts back to the bathroom. But we see like this hand, right? And it's covered in an like an amniotic fluid almost, because it's like it was just born. You know what I mean? And it's so like, and so it opens its eyes and it's like, whoa, look at this arm that's new. And then it looks over and there is the what they call the matrix body, the first body, and it's like, and it's just like sitting there with like blood and shit and like ripped down the back. And so you learn that we're looking through the eyes of the new body, the second body. So instead of seeing Elizabeth in the mirror, we see this new girl who gets named Sue, our Margaret Qualley. And we have to remember that despite like the physical disconnect, that they are both the same person. Like over and over again, the guy in the substance is like, "You are one. You are one." And I think it's really interesting how this director went about it, because despite the glaring like similarities between them, they are the same person, but they literally keep them so separated. Like one will make a decision and then the other one will wake up and be like, the other one made a decision. It's like, no, 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 no. You are the same person. And it's like, I think that's hard for some people to fathom. Or like the way they show it is is two separate bodies, but you have to remember that you're one. And I think the inherent flaw is that logic, because you have to, like, you can't pretend that you are yourself. You have to pretend you're this new person despite being one consciousness. Like, do you know what I mean? Sorry, that was a little bit of a rant. Once the new body like gets her bearings or whatever in the bathroom, she starts like she has to start sewing up the old body because it's literally like a gaping wound. So she sews it up, and she's like, at this point you can see she's like, okay, why did I do this actually? Because she's like literally putting a needle through her own back and flesh and sewing it up. Um, she hooks the Matrix up to its food bag. Like, they have these like sustenance packs basically that keep the other body alive while you're not in it, and then she takes a shower. The next scene where the second body is coming into itself is like they show it's like imposter syndrome basically that it's having. Like, even though the two bodies are the same, and the second body seems like deeply uncomfortable sleeping in the bed, but it starts getting like more comfortable as the days go on. So, like I mentioned earlier, in like the first couple scenes, Elizabeth was getting fired from her show because she wasn't young enough. But now that she is this young woman, she goes and auditions for her show. And she ends up getting it. So, like, the younger body, Sue, ends up booking the show. Then comes the first switch. It's been a great week in the second body, but like the card said, every 7 days, no exceptions. I want to get into the pacing of this movie because it tells a story in and of itself. Like, the weeks when it's the Matrix's turn, like the old Elizabeth, are very fast and almost blur-like, whereas the weeks where she's Sue is almost like relished in. There are scenes that almost you don't need, where she's just like existing in her body, but like it tells that story of like she doesn't care about being in the old body. She just likes being young and like needed again. And that's like super sad but also really cool storytelling. But yeah, it shows the story of Elizabeth likes being Sue more than she likes being her old self, which is so like sad self-sabotage, because this is how the director wants you to feel, as though the two people are that, two different people. But you have to remember that they are one. The choices that one makes directly affect the other, as we learn in the next scene. So Sue one night starts to get weak, aka low on the sustainability fluid, like it's almost time to switch. But she ends up not switching. She ends up taking like an extra day of life fluid and out of the Matrix body to go and like hook up with this guy. When the switch does end up happening later, like after she's taken the extra like couple hours or whatever, the Matrix body, Elizabeth, is her finger looks like it's aged like 30 years. So she's supposed to be like around 50, I think, but it looks like the finger of like a 90-year-old. She immediately like calls the substance guy and is like, "Hey, my other body messed up, or like she messed up. Can you fix this? Like, my body looks weird now. My finger's all fucked up." And the guy on the line is like, "No, what is taken from one side must be reflected on the other." And in essence, like, "No, you fucked up. Go away." This ends up getting a lot worse in the film ends up getting a lot worse as the film goes on. The other body, Sue, keeps getting more and more famous and renowned, and like, so obviously she can't switch every week anymore. So she ends up like taking the syringe that gives the life fluid and like taking like, I think it's like 3 months or something worth of the life fluid out of the Matrix body. Of course, this like taking of all of the life fluid does come to a head when she runs out of the life fluid and she can't stabilize herself anymore. And so she ends up switching back to the Matrix body, and she switches back right before her like big break, which is hosting the studio's big New Year's show. Like, think like Ryan Seacrest, but in this what is the word I'm looking for? Timeline. In this timeline. So she wakes up as her old body, looking like if Nosferatu and Quasimodo had a child. She's like, well, fuck, I can't do this anymore. I look crazy. She's taken everything from me. Like I can't do this anymore. So she calls up the substance line and is like, hey, I want to quit, because they kept offering her that whenever she would like wake up with the finger, and then she woke up with like her leg looking like that too. The guy kept offering like, you can stop, if you want. You're the Matrix body. It's up to you. And so she ends up being like, okay, she's taken my whole life basically. I look nuts, and I need to end this. And so they give her like this like syringe of like black tar looking fluid that she's supposed to inject into Sue, and then it'll be over. She'll have ended her experience with the substance. And like I was sitting there the whole time, like while she's like calling up getting the like termination fluid or whatever, like wow, self growth, we're learning that we don't need her to like feel confident in ourselves. And you're like, wow, she's self growth, what a slay. Well, she ends up not killing Sue all the way, and she ends up actually like halfway through, like she's halfway down the plunger, and she's like, I can't do this. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. We have a big show tonight. You can't die. And she would live to regret this. Sorry, that felt very dark, man. Because both bodies end up conscious at the same time. And this is like the crazy part, because Sue ends up, like the younger body ends up killing, like beating the shit out of Elizabeth and then killing her. Which I was like, because like one tried to kill the other, so the other killed it. Do you know what I mean? All right. So this is time for our new segment, Reddit Break. Welcome to Reddit Break. I'm Zach with a red shirt on. Today we have Reddit's thoughts on the killing scene in The Substance. So from Sour Cherry, we have, it's justified because they are both different sides of the same coin. Sue embodies everything about Elizabeth that makes her hate herself, if that makes sense. So Sue hates Elizabeth already, if you couldn't tell from the spine fluid for months and with no care for Elizabeth. So that self-hatred came out, like how dare you try and kill this part of yourself, the part that matters / is validated by society. And she kills the part of herself that she hates without realizing that without that, there is no more Sue. She can't exist without Elizabeth. That's what it's trying to get at. So I agree with the other person in this thread, TLDR, it's a metaphor. The second one is from Justin Stalker. This one is the one that like truly got me. It's a suicide scene. And that's unequivocally true. And then the last one from Screenwriter, I think Sue, seeing the termination syringe, realized Elizabeth was trying to kill her, and if she ever had to switch back to Elizabeth, that she might not wake up. This was her only chance to stop her would-be murderer. So that's Reddit's thoughts on the killing scene. Back to you. Alright, let me know how you guys feel about the Reddit segment. But let's get back into it. So back to Sue's big New Year's show. Now that Elizabeth, the Matrix body, is dead, all I could think about was like, shit, she doesn't have any more life fluid to be able to get at all. Like, is she gonna like die herself? Is she gonna like somehow like end up? I don't know. I was like, this is gonna turn out worse. So I was on the edge of my seat, like. So after we learn that she commits suicide, it cuts to her in her like fancy ass New Year's Eve show, like makeup chair. She's in this like poofy like toddlers and tiaras gown almost. And this is where we get to the real body horror of this movie. Her teeth start falling out. Woo! And then she starts pulling them out. Woo! This is the part of the film that like I was sitting next to a mom and her like two teenage daughters, and like the whole time they were like, oh, like I was like, I can't like enjoy the fact that this is disgusting with you like being disgusted right next to me. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, the next part of the film, I'm gonna go all video essay on its ass because I interpreted this hard. So after her teeth fall out, Sue starts to get super overwhelmed and she runs all the way back to her apartment and she decides to use the substance a second time. And the whole thing is you substance only once and you have the two bodies. You don't substance again. And I don't think it would have even been, how do I explain this? I don't think it would have been crazy if the Matrix body substanced twice, but the fact that it's a substance of a second body, I think that's why it ended up being the need for a second iteration of a younger beautiful self. I think shows the amount of need that she needs to feel needed, if that makes sense. Not only did she kill the part of herself that she thought was ugly and like she was disgusted by, but now this quite literal better, more beautiful, younger version of herself isn't even enough to like stop her. Like she looks like Margaret Qualley. She looks like Margaret Qualley, and like she's like, this isn't enough. She needs to feel more young, more beautiful in order to feel needed in this business that she's chosen twice now, because she was Elizabeth Sparkle and now she's Sue, and like she just needs to feel good about herself and she's not able to do that, and it's so sad. She needs to be like more well endowed, have a bigger ass to prove to the men who like run the studio, the men in her life that give her like her validation, that she is worthy of that validation. And it's really sad to not only feel disgusted by like the Nosferatu and like the the like uglier parts of yourself, but to feel like ugly and not needed by the beautiful parts of yourself is also like terrible. Like that feeling that you'll never be beautiful enough, I think is something everyone can like feel a connection to. And it's like to feel that way is to be human. To be human is to have insecurities. To be human is not to be perfect. It's just like ugh, I'm gonna like I'm getting emotional. Shut up. But she ends up using the substance on the second body, and what comes out is like truly terrifying but beautiful at the same time. Like it's a disgusting, like it's like a monster. That's what they call it, monstro. But it's also like signifying like beauty and being beautiful in your own way. So out pops this monster that they call Monstro Elisasu. And I learned that monster means like to become or something. Monstro is it like it's Latin or something. But it's like an amalgamation of the three former bodies. So like I say three in quotes because the base body is still Sue. So but on her back is Elizabeth, and like she's like looking out like this. And then also like there's like parts of it that look the the Nosferatu looking thing. Sorry, I keep saying Nosferatu, but it's like the only like thing I can like it looks like. So when I looked up the inspiration for Monstro Elisa Sue, it said that this movie called like The Elephant Man. If you look that up, it looks a lot like that. And also, she used inspiration from artworks by Fernando Botero also. And yeah, I also thought the AI overview for when I looked up what like her inspirations were was eating. And so I'm just gonna read the little blurb for you. Monstro Elisasu is a metaphor for self acceptance and the societal pressures women face. The creature's chaotic anatomy rejects unattainable norms, transforming them into something raw, messy, and deeply human. And that's kind of like what I said before. So I was like, damn, AI really ate with that one. So the new body, which is like an amalgamation of the two women and just like showing off like you can't like throw anything at me that I don't already think about myself in a way. But she ends up like doing her little wisps of hair that she has. She ends up putting on the dress again on the new body that like doesn't fit, so like boobs are hanging out and stuff, and the arm on the back is like shoved through the what's the there's a word for the type of dress she's wearing. Tulle. It's going like through the tulle. Man, I'm so smart. Okay. And then she like tape. So like in the whole film, there's this giant poster of Elizabeth in the living room, where she's all, looking all hot in her little like leotard, and so the monster Lisa Sue cuts out the face of that and tapes it to its own face, right? And then she goes back to the studio to do her New Year's show as the like monster thingy. Um, the Eliza Sue gets on stage and immediately people are like, "What's happening? What is this? Where's Sue?" The tape ends up giving way, so like the picture of Elizabeth Sparkle falls off, and it's just the monster head. And immediately people are like, "Get off the stage, freak, beast, you!" Like, and some I don't really know because I watched the scene a few times, and I think the guy like has a sword or something because he goes and he cuts off Elisa Sue's head. Right? He goes up and he's like, and it comes off, and you're like, and then you like, if like for a second you think she's dead or something, and then it just starts regrowing back. The head grows back immediately, and it's just like regenerates. And then the same guy with the sword, cuts her hand off, and she just starts projectile spewing blood, like like a fire hose into the audience where everyone is watching this. And everyone in my theater was literally dry heaving so hard this whole scene. And it's funny in a like totally disgusting way. Comedy in tragedy. What I thought was crazy was on my second watch at home of this, when I could like scrub through and stuff, was she only like spews blood at the audience for like 2 minutes. But in theaters, oh my god, you could have told me that lasted like 10-15 minutes and I would have believed you, just because the whole time everyone's gagging, everyone's trying to like look away, but they can't. That kind of like hook you in, disgusting stuff. But yeah, it was literally like 2 minutes of her spewing her arm blood everywhere. She makes her way outside of the studio and gets like to the sidewalk, and then like the whole monster explodes into a puddle of flesh and blood, where a star-shaped little puddle with the original Elizabeth's face on it makes its way through the other body parts and scoots away. This was the part in the theaters where I got like almost everybody to laugh, because our theater was talking, so like they were doing bits, they were gagging all the time. I wouldn't have done it if everyone was being quiet, but like let me make that clear. I don't usually talk in movies, okay? But the scene where she's like crawling away from the remnants of Elisa Sue and she's just the blob of flesh with Elizabeth's face on it, I was like, believe it or not, self-growth. And the theater ate that shit up. I felt on top of the world. I ate in that moment. Okay, anyway, this is like truly sad part of the movie. I felt like a mood lightener, but we see the little puddle of with Elizabeth's face on it. Her destination is her own Hollywood star, where it all ties back around to the beginning of the film, where we saw her Hollywood star like through the ages. And the movie ends with her taking her last breaths as a human blobfish on top of her own Hollywood star. And then a like street sweeper Zamboni thing comes and like cleans her off. Like, and you feel like content. I love when a movie has closure. I left thinking about this movie for a while after it came out, but like not about the ending, which was cool. I was thinking about the social and mental repercussions that come along with having to pretend to be two people, even though you are one. Cuz like a society won't accept you as these two people. So you have to pretend that they are both their own person. And I think that's really hard on mental health. I was thinking about how what like the other guy ended up, number like 207, that like the from the diner scene, the nurse, the same guy. What does his life look like week to week? Overall, this movie was great. I like it left so much to the mind, but also answered your question. Like it also answered so many of my questions at the same time. After all, they've won countless film festivals. She won the Golden Globe for Best Actor or Actress, and they're up for 5 Academy Awards. So, like, obviously, this is a really good film. I'd give The Substance an overall 8 out of 10 because this movie was truly crazy, and I think I would have rated it higher if I liked body horror at all, but it was a really good storytelling, and I love this director. She's really cool. And French. Okay. Switching gears here a little bit. I talked about music last week, but I'm going to bring it back around because I've been on a music journey as of late, I would say, where I am, I usually I'm the kind of guy who I'll just press play on a song and like it'll make like a playlist for you kind of, and like similar songs that you would like in based on that song. And that was really like it for me. I didn't understand like why people made playlists, why you would take that time when it would just do it for you. I have since opened my eyes to the fun like experience and like way of expressing yourself that is making a playlist. So it sounds so dumb. Right now I'm making this playlist where it's only long songs. So I went out and was like, what songs are like I was longer than 6 minutes, no live songs, because live songs don't count because they just like riff forever and it can be like 15 minutes long and the real song's like 4 minutes, and it's like no. I wanted them to have to sit down and like recorded like a 6+ minute song in the studio. And so I've been having a lot of fun like creating this and like understanding the artistry that goes along with making a song that is longer than 6 minutes, because a lot of songs nowadays are going to be like 2-3 minutes max. But I think we need to bring back longer songs because there's such an art within it. Like there is this song called Nan's Song by Robbie Williams. And this is just like the most beautiful song, like talking about his grandma, and it's 15 minutes long. And there's a deep pause in the middle where I take it as like that's his moment of silence for his grandmother. And there's like so many ways in which you can interpret a song, and I just think you can't like necessarily do that with a song that's like 2 minutes long, because you can't like without even like thinking about it, you've moved on to the next song, like quite literally. And I think it's so cool to be able to make a song that is so long and like have it like make you feel something. So that's a good one. It's a really sad one, but then there's also a song by Adele, which came out on her 30 album called My Little Love, in which she talks about not knowing what it means to be a mother and like how to do it. And like there's snippets of the song where it's just like maybe it was a recording, like a home video basically, where she's like mommy doesn't like anyone else like I like you, right? And that's like not sung, but it's just like in there as like a little tidbit. And this song is beautiful. Like if my mom ever wrote something like this, ooh, I'd be like, I'm crying at this and it's not even my mom, you know what I mean? So like, Angelo, brother, your mom loves you, dude. And there's a part at the end where it's all that kind of spoken word but to music. So it's a really beautiful like tribute to her son, and it's just like sad but in like the most beautiful way. I'm like but then there's also like some fun ones where like there's this Rihanna song, Same Old Mistakes, that's pretty long. I've got like classics like Hotel California. That just feels like a long one. I found this one song by Metric, which I only found because I was looking for like artists who might have like long songs, and I was the song from Scott Pilgrim came up where it's the Brie Larson version, if you know what I'm talking about, and I was like, oh, I wonder if Metric has any long songs, and this song is called Doom Scroller, and this is it's like a retrospective at our lives right now. So it's called Doom Scroller, and it's all about how like technology is taking over and like infecting art and all this stuff. And like I'm trying to think of what the lyrics are, but yeah, it's like all about like how growing up in like the digital age has like fucked with all our heads and like shown that like we can't like think a thought for ourselves anymore, and like it's just beautiful. So if you're like look, I'll like leave the descript like this my playlist in the description because I had a lot of fun making it. Like I'm still making it because I keep finding long songs that like are beautiful and should be played, and like I'm yeah. The only one I also didn't do any remasters, but the only remaster I have is Stairway to Heaven because that's a really long song. But Led Zeppelin doesn't have any of their like old music on YouTube Music for some reason. So that's the only one that's a remaster because they literally like Led Zeppelin 4 is not like there's no regular version on here for some reason. I was like, okay. But there's a bunch of old songs, like I've got Billy Joel and Boney M, but I've also got like new ones, like I said, like the Rihanna song. What else was there? The Metric song, and like I've got like the Adele one. So there's a good mix, and I just think it's a lot of fun to like curate a playlist and find out like how that music translates to you and how you like embody that music, because I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to interpret art. Obviously that's that's pretty much all I do on this, but not only can I interpret art, but you the viewer are interpreting it with me, because while I'm saying what I thought, you're forming your own thoughts, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Like, God, I'm getting sappy, dude. I've just had a lot of fun with music lately. Thank you guys for coming along with me for another episode of the Zac Tapes. I'll see you guys next week. We're going to be talking probably, I think, Challengers and my dead friend Zoe. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Toodles.